SPD is the Social Democrats, liberals. The Greens are the Greens, liberals. The FDP are libertarians. The BSW are Nazbols. The AFD are Nazis. The CDU are neocons that will capitulate to Nazis every chance that they get. And Die Linke is the only real party. the only real political option for Germany. You could even say it is the only real alternative for Germany is Die Linke. But the German election is something I wanted to talk about, because we love our elections, even though I am not necessarily an electoralist. I believe that you have to do a lot of work outside of the electoral cycle, will Germany go Nazi again? Actually, yes and no. That's the most interesting thing about this election. So I'm looking at the whoa, okay, this track is kind of goofy. Looking at the charts here for the election results, the CDU, the right-wing party, the like mainstream, well, I guess most of these parties are all mainstream because they won seats in the governing body, but the like neoconservative party won about they won 28% of the vote, and the AFD, the Nazi party, won about 21% of the vote, right? And then the other notable results were that the SPD plummeted to 16%. Poor bastards. They just don't have the sauce in them, you know. German social democrats, not known for being politically effective. I'll say that much. And then the Greens got about 11.5%. The Left Party is the only other party that is going to be represented in government. There are a total of, I think, let's see. Let me count this off. It's kind of hard to do this while I'm driving. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 5 parties that are being represented in government, and one of them is Die Linke, the left party. Now, the last time I talked about Die Linke, I was under the impression that it was kind of a joke political party, but I am actually very happy to have recently been proven quite wrong about that. How many of these parties matter? All of them. All of these parties matter. And I will explain why in a moment. No, Die Linke put up a pretty good showing. They got about 8.8% of the vote. Looks like on that chart. And that is about a tripling of their earlier vote share. The last time the election happened, they only got like 3%. They didn't have any seats in government. You have to have at least 5% of the vote to get seats in the German government. Which brings me to the 2 funniest results. The FDP, the Libertarian Party in Germany, got 4.3% of the vote, and the BSW, the like Nazbol splinter off from the Left Party, got 4.97% of the vote. Just too little for them to have any seats in the parliament. El Bozo, dance on their grave, pack watch, smoke a cigar, you know how it is. So you have 5 parties represented in government. The SPD, the CDU, the Greens, AFD, and the Left. Those are the absolute results. Alone and incomplete. I don't know what that track is, but I'm picking it. So, on another chart here, we see that there are some parties that made gains and some parties that took a big hit. Left Party gained... Oh, okay, might be. It was not a tripling of their previous showings, about a doubling. They gained about 3.9% percentage points of the vote. AFD gained about 10.4, CDU gained about 4.4, and BSW was a new party, so their gain was their total vote share and stuff. The FDP, the Greens, and the SPD lost really big time. I don't know what this track is, but further proof that fascism or communism is true. Yes, this election is proof that, like, the ideological divide is just, all right, which way, Western man? Socialism or barbarism? You know, like, pick your fighter. You know, you got on the left, you've got socialism. On the right, you've got barbarism. And it seems that people in Germany are choosing both of those things. The demographic turnout for these parties indicate that a lot of young men voted for the AFD, while older people tended to vote more for the SPD and particularly the CDU. They're like very much legacy parties at this point. But young people overall, and young women especially, voted in pretty decent numbers for the left party. I don't live in Germany. I don't know which parties are which. SPD is the Social Democrats, liberals. The Greens are the Greens, liberals. The FDP are libertarians, but they're irrelevant because they didn't get any seats. The BSW are Nazbols. The AFD are Nazis. The CDU are neocons that will capitulate to Nazis every chance that they get. And Die Linke is the only real party. the only real political option for Germany. You could even say it is the only real alternative for Germany is Die Linke. CTs? Yeah, they added them in Retro Rewind, apparently. Don't liberals also submit to fascists? Yes, but the SPD and Greens probably less so, because there's still, like, a touch of the parties that they used to be in there somewhere. And they also have, from insofar as they have a political platform to speak of, it is pretty substantially different from the AFD. The liberal parties are very lacking in terms of a bold, affirmative political vision. But the substantial difference between the Greens and the SPD and the CDU is that the Greens and the SPD are like, don't be racist, that's bad. And then all the economic stuff is, you know, they're liberals and support tweaks around the margins. CDU does support the tweaks around the margins, but they're also kind of racist. They are a watered-down version of the AFD, and the SPD and the Greens less so. And in fact, this would not be the first time that the CDU and the AFD have worked together. They worked together, I think, a year or two ago on an immigration bill in Germany. I don't remember if it passed or not, but on the #1 issue of the AFD, immigration, and really not liking brown people, the CDU was like, yeah, you know, we agree. We're willing to work on a reasonable proposal to restrict immigration because, you know, they're a drag on the welfare state. Or something like that, you know? They're fundamentally the same logic is being employed there. And that is why the CDU and AFD warrant the side-eye here. You know, I anticipate whatever coalition is built in name, it's possible the CDU goes with the SPD, or with the SPD and the Greens, or with the AFD. Expect the CDU to work with the AFD, particularly on immigration and stuff. And possibly on economics as well, because remember, the only difference between the AFD and these other liberal parties is that they are more racist. The AFD are also austerity liberals. They're not willing to do the kind of bold economic change that Die Linke is willing to do, that Die Linke has promised, that, you know, Die Linke wants to, like, invest a bunch in East Germany, if I remember right, and they want to support the unions and the workers' movements and stuff like that, and no other party really wants to do that. Even the SPD hasn't been very vocal, because they're liberals who don't really have an affirmative vision. Conflict makes politics interesting. Politics is conflict, you know? Because people, there are different groups of people who have different interests, and politics is how those interests are realized and how they exert influence to try to, well, realize those interests. Nice. I blued myself. How long do you think liberals will last as they're kicking and screaming out the door? The liberals are not long for this world, politically speaking. They're pretty politically irrelevant already. And part of what makes the liberals not politically relevant is that they're not willing to go kicking and screaming out the door. They go quietly into the night. So as it stands right now, let's see, the left has 64 seats. Yeah, CDU has 208, the Greens have 85, SPD 120, AFD 152. Yeah. Captain America movie was like, guys, why can't you get along? I have no interest in the Captain America movie. I'll be frank. Ever since I heard that they were like using AI in the advertisements for it or whatever. Anywho. We have some voter migration here. Gains or losses of votes to other parties or non-voters. SPD. SPD fucking bled voters. They lost 2 million voters to the CDU and 720,000 to AFD. Some to the left, some to BSW. Like, SPD just lost big time. And every party, except for the AFD, actually lost votes to the left. As well. The only party that gained votes from the left party is the AFD. They gained about 100,000 votes from Die Linke. But anyways, I wanted to talk a little bit about what was it? Like the whether or not Germany is going to go Hitler mode to address one of the earlier questions. And the answer is kind of like a yes and no. As it stands, there's likely to be a governing coalition that either officially or unofficially includes the AFD in a pretty influential position. So in that way, yes. However, if you consider the amount of ground that the left party made up in so little time, I think they had a big like polling surge just a month ahead of the election, and some like substantially in like a week prior to the election because of the speech from J.D. Vance about how, like, yeah, Europe, you're on your own. And they campaigned really aggressively. They're really active on social media. They're capturing a lot of the attention of younger political demographics. The left has something that I think the other parties don't really, not even the AFD, and that's momentum, political momentum, which is like super important because they have something that the liberal parties definitely don't, and that is a real platform, a platform that they can be passionate about and that they can be like a vocal advocate for, you know? And that's going to win over a lot of people, young and old, to their political base. It already has. But this time, that only amounted to about 8 point something. It was like almost 9% of the vote. It didn't amount to much this time, necessarily, except for, you know, a doubling of their previous electoral showing. Quick enough? I don't understand what you mean by quick enough, Gotron. Yeah, I'm looking at the demographics here. 18 to 24s. The plurality of people in the 18 to 24-year-old age demographic actually voted for the left by a massive margin. It was not even close. The next demographic down to vote for the left was 25 to 34 at 15%. And the next largest share of young voters was 21% to the AFD. The young people preferred the more left-leaning options for the most part. People try to create a left party that's not liberal before they get enough time. It destroys everything. What? No. Understand, Germany is not like a third-party bullshit system the way that the United States has. It's a it's not like first past the post system. And Die Linke was not new. Die Linke has been around for a while. They've just been like usually a bit player, before fascism... Oh, okay. People try to create a left party that's not liberal before they get enough time. Fascism destroys everything. Well, here's the thing. In order for the left to be successful, people need to kind of see the ways in which fascism is going to... Well, intends to destroy everything, right? Because the way that liberal democracies decline is that naturally far-right populism is going to appear first because it has the backing of the uber-wealthy class. The left populism is going to be entirely organic, whereas the right-wing populism is mostly astroturfed by, you know, industrialists and capitalists and you know, investors, finance bros, etc., right? So the part where the left comes around to save the day, basically, and where things start to get better is going to happen after the part where things probably get worse. And that's what I meant to point out with the coalition building between, you know, what I think is going to happen with the AFD and CDU, either coalition building in a formal capacity or working together outside of a coalition in a informal capacity. You know, that is going to hollow out Germany. Germany depends a lot on immigrants, as do most first world countries. In fact, I think every first world country, by virtue of being a first world country, depends on immigrants for labor and for population growth because, well, in developed countries that are sort of stagnating liberal democracies, the birth rate tends to not be very high. And, you know, having enough people coming into your country for a stable or growing population is super important, and you really don't want to face population decline because that doesn't spell anything good for your economy. And that is exactly what fascism would do to the demographics of any one of these countries, to say nothing of the financial havoc that it would wreak internally, independent of that, or the kind of mass suffering that minorities would experience once they are in the country. Does that make sense? Okay, thank you. I'm glad I'm making sense of this. So fascism is, you know, going to worsen things in Germany, and that's going to provide an opportunity for a newly mobilized left to get the attention of disaffected people, young and old, but mostly young because, you know, young people tend to be the hotbed of political change, always. And it's basically gonna be like a variation of this in most countries. I think Germany just seems to be setting up for it a little bit right now. How soon it happens, I think, ultimately determines how bad things get in various other countries where the far right is experiencing a resurgence. So, mostly due to the fact that old people don't want change like the plague. Yep, and that's why most old people voted for CDU and SPD, is because those are the parties of the status quo, and that's stable. A stable decline for a good amount of old people is preferable to any sort of change. Here, if I look at the election results by age again. Yeah, we can see that, here, let me scroll back to that graph. Election results by age, thank you. Yeah, 25% of people over the age of 70 voted for the SPD, and 42% of them voted for the CDU. That's a combined 67%. A full 2/3 of old people voted for the most status quo political parties out of the bunch. And only 4% of the old people voted for Die Linke. About 10% voted for AFD because, you know, some of the old people do be Nazis. Oh, that was a good shock. In fact, another notable thing is that the AFD simply performed about how they were expected to, as opposed to overperforming. We all remember, I'm sure, that Elon Musk, after he did that Nazi salute in at that Trump rally, went over to or not went over to did a Zoom call to this AfD rally in Germany, and basically tried to use his poll both on Twitter and in real life to say, like, hey, AfD is the only alternative for Germany. Everybody should vote AfD because they will save the country. And that still didn't give AfD any more juice to like get above that 20% line that they were already predicted to be at, you know? So the AfD, I think it will kind of run out of steam as a result of their, well, anything that they do being like downright disastrous. And it seems like, short of any like massive institutional resistance, it seems like the left can only go up from here, which is good because the left is the only party with a real economic revitalization project for Germany through... Gotta concentrate for a second. Through like supporting workers' unions and sort of rolling back the excesses of neoliberalism and like, well, not letting corporations fucking plunder Germany to the extent that they have. A lot of the political climate in Germany is kind of determined by the fact that East Germany was like basically shock therapied by West Germany and the Western powers after the end of the Cold War. You know, like how all the oligarchs in Russia, with the help of American financiers and economists, like bought up all the industry and privatized it. A similar thing happened in East Germany, where a lot of money was sunk into the region, but it was all sunk into the region in a way that was mostly like buying up industries and businesses, and left the major economic hubs in West Germany, and things got better, but not by that much in East Germany. You know? It was kind of like just a slightly nicer occupation. And so the left is developing an answer to that. I might do one more race, and then I actually want to look at one of the campaign things for... Let's be honest, the left is the only party with a plan, actual plan. Yes, and that is exactly why I think they're going to eventually come out on top in politics. Eventually, like, left parties are going to steal the spotlight, because you think about the dynamic here that I was explaining earlier. SPD and CDU, the liberals and the, like, neocons, basically, the best they can offer is to, with varying degrees of racism, economic tweaks around the margins, everything is fine as it is, despite the fact that everything is visibly not fine as it is. AfD is willing to scream and yell that things are not fine as they are, but their answer is just to be racist and make things worse, which would not make things better. The left is the only party with that will say, yeah, things are not fine, and also we have a real plan that we're going to be very vocal about to fix it, that will benefit everybody, and that doesn't involve being fucking racist, you know? In fact, it involves mostly hating billionaires and wanting to tax all of their wealth out of them and redistribute it and support unions and such and such. I remember like a revamping of the tax brackets to be much more taxing on billionaires being a part of the left's plan, which is a very easy policy W to cultivate. Yeah, the left parties like Thanos, we are inevitable. So that was that was what I wanted to talk about mostly with the German election, is that even though things like, yes, the far right is taking over, and yes, things are probably going to get worse for a decent amount of time in Germany, like they are in most countries where the far right has a presence, it's not going to last forever, because, you know, the far right doesn't actually have a plan. Like, remember, during... anybody who knows the history of Germany knows that the Nazis were fucking incompetent, economically speaking. They had no idea what they were doing. The only reason that they were able to stay in power as long as they they did without collapsing Germany's entire economy is that, number one, they were the sort of they were coasting off of the bounce back, the economic recovery from the Great Depression, which every country was experiencing a version of at the time. And then secondly, they had war plunder to fuel the economy, and they needed that war plunder. Believe it or not, the Nazis in Germany were so incompetent that they actually had to resort to using war plunder to fuel the economy and the war effort, you know, because of their mismanagement of things domestically. Germany today and other countries today are not subject to those circumstances. Like, we're not rebounding back from the biggest economic depression in human history, and there's not an ongoing war for Germany that would allow them to use economic plunder to fuel their economy, nor would I think war plunder really be enough to fuel a modern, industrialized, globalized economy. It's an actual joke that the Nazis ever thought they had a chance of conquering the planet. Yeah, whatever war plan and strategy, you could devise a fantastical scenario where, oh, the Nazis win World War II and all that. And, you know, like, oh no, it's the man in the high castle. All of their governments would fucking collapse instantly because they are so motivated by irrational hatred that they are literally incapable of governing rationally. They are incapable of maintaining a dictatorship that is stable enough to not collapse under its own weight and mismanagement. Like, that shit would happen instantly if Nazis were in charge. Like, the moment World War II ended, Germany was due for another economic collapse if the United States didn't come in and, you know, Marshall Plan everybody. Fascism is basically Homelander. Yeah, but without the invincibility. Fascism is all of the, like, incompetence and mental deficiency and psychosexual insecurity of Homelander without any of the superpowers or invincibility. They're just pathetic fucking wretches of human beings. And the way that they govern reflects that. I'll link, you know, if this does become a segment, I'll definitely link the website that I was looking at in the description of the video, because I think the graphs there are pretty interesting. I know I'm a fucking nerd, and it is, like, definitely nerd shit that I'm talking about, like, oh, this graph of the election results is really interesting, but I think it supports some of the points that I make, that the left has momentum. And if you know what was expected of the far right, they're kind of approaching their peak, and definitely, like, people are pretty fed up of the institutional parties, you know, like the SPD and the CDU are only really big because they're coasting off of political inertia. But yeah, in either case, cut the segment there, future me, and you know, if Die Linke keep doing your shit, keep getting on that grind, and you know, see you next time, I guess. I don't know. There is hope for Germany, is what I'm saying. Thanks for watching, and support the channel if you would be so kind.